Hello, and welcome to Keeper's Corner Podcast, where we're breaking down anything and everything Utica City FC related. With your hosts, as always, Matthew Sterling, Michelle Brooks, and Brandon Brooks. Let's go. Hello, welcome to another edition of the Keeper's Corner Podcast. As always, I'm Matt, joined by Brandon, off to a great start as I trip over my tongue.
Oh, yeah, buddy. I'm doing good tonight on this wonderful Wednesday evening, the 1st of March. I don't know why I had to bring up the date.
I don't know.
You want the time, too?
No, I'm good. We don't need to, key everyone into when we do this. It's not like we're live.
Live for the Sogs.
All right, so we got 2 games to talk about. Both of them are wins. And that is huge. Let's quickly talk about a little bit of both, just because the performances this weekend earned one of our players Defensive Player of the Week.
I wonder who that could be.
I believe it's Andrew Mr. Stretch Coughlin, with 25 saves across 2 games, 6 goals allowed, an .806 save percentage, and 2 assists.
Yes, I believe that they were bringing up the fact that he is literally leading the league for goalkeeper assists and ended up with 2 more this weekend.
At this point, he has 6 on the season, which are a career high.
I'll get into a little bit of that when we talk about the Baltimore game, because as we had talked about previously, the play style of this team really helped us on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into that.
Absolutely. But first, let's start with Friday's 6-5 win down in Harrisburg. No goals in the fourth quarter, but there were certainly some fireworks, and I'm sure there's a stat that catches your eye in this game.
I mean, I was just going to say that Andrew Coughlin took the weekend, but, I mean, if you want to talk about a stat, we could talk about a red card.
Yeah, you certainly could talk about a red card.
So, tempers were flaring, fireworks were all across the arena as between the third and fourth quarter, we saw one of our Utica players go down, which was Nilton, I believe it was. Nilton went down right at the end of the quarter. No cards, no nothing, just common foul, which was very surprising given the fact that he went into the boards hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so, they went to commercial. We didn't get to see anything. Then when they came back, all of a sudden, everything's on fire. And people are all over the place. They're talking about how there was some sort of altercation during the commercial break. And then we got to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And we only got to see it once, which made me sad. Maybe twice. Because I wanted to find out what the heck happened. At first, it looks like it was definitely Stefan Mijatovic. He was involved 100%. You couldn't dispute that.
Right.
I still couldn't tell who started it, even from watching the footage over and over and over. I literally slowed this down to a quarter speed of all the footage that they showed of that altercation. Could not see who started it. So I don't know. Don't ask me. But I have a very strong suspicion of who it was with, because there are multiple times when you would think, oh, well, it looked like at one point he was fighting with Vosvik because he had a hold of the neck of his jersey and he kind of got pulled to the side at one point. But I don't think it was him, because he did not even interface with him after that. Even when Vosvik was kind of yelling at him, Mijatovic wasn't even looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking at Ty Hall. Now you think, well, was it him and Ty Hall going at it? I don't think so either, because he ended up accidentally, and I say accidentally, and I have a defense for that. He accidentally pulled out one of Ty Hall's dreads. He wasn't even, again, during the whole scuffle, wasn't even looking at Ty Hall. He was looking at someone else in the crowd. But as he was, kind of basically tripped over his or someone else's feet, and ended up kind of getting pulled down to the ground, he ended up inadvertently pulling out one of Ty Hall's dreads. And the rest of probably the rest of the time, I literally watched him it looked like I don't think he was taunting him with it, but maybe. It looked like he was trying to hand it back to him. I don't know. But, they wouldn't let him get close enough.
Yeah.
Then at the end of it, I saw Stephen Basso arguing with Everton and a ref. And I looked back and I watched him throughout the whole scuffle. And he was the one, I am 75, 80% confident he was the one that Mijatovic was locked with. And I don't know why. I'm sure some words were exchanged. I'm sure something was said, something was done, but it definitely looked like he was having an argument with Stephen Basso. Okay. So the battle of the Stephen and Stefan, maybe they just didn't like how each other spelled their name. I don't know. But
well, I mean, if it's name pronunciation, there are a lot of other people that have a bigger gripe, like Jalovic or Isaac Saro.
Hey, I mean, Mijatovic had a big gripe too.
Mijatovic?
Yes. So again, I don't, I won't know until I actually talk with Stefan, which I'm sure we'll get something from him, but it might be off the record. So we won't be able to probably share it. But that's my running theory is it was something between him and Basso.
Okay.
So hopefully we can find out at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying that obviously we don't condone that kind of. I don't know. We don't condone scrumming and fighting, and it might get the crowd fired up for a little bit, but ultimately it hurts the team because in this case, Stefan got a red card, so had to sit the fourth quarter somewhere else, not on the not with the rest of the team, and then he had to miss Sunday's game against Baltimore.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a stat that grabs your attention. And we will talk more about this a little bit later because there's a fallout from this from the DRC that affects things. And we will talk about that after we've done the recaps.
And someone is irritated.
Yeah, I am. Dumb recommendation committee.
I would like to say one thing though, about both games and in general, not anything to do with what happened in the games, just the scores. I was so freaking close. I literally had my predictions backwards. I said we were going to beat Baltimore by 1, and I said we were going to beat Harrisburg by 3. I flipped them. I don't know how or why we always end up being so close with Harrisburg. But I don't know. But we've beaten them every time. Knock on every piece of wood that I can possibly find. And I don't know. I think we're moving back towards a 50-50 split with Baltimore. That's, like we always used to in the first season. It was always a 50-50 game.
Yeah, it went 2-1 on each home's turf.
Yeah. So, anyway, sorry to go off track.
Stat for my eye, it's Vosvik's performance in this. One of the worst games he's had stat line wise. A 571 save percentage, which last time we played him on the 11th, he had an 846 save percentage in Utica. Just a very atypical game for the rookie goalkeeper. And that made a huge difference in a game where it came down to 1 goal.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Vosvik will bounce back. He'll have a better game. And he did the next night. I will throw that in there. He came back against Baltimore and held them to 3 goals into overtime and had an .813 save percentage. So
yeah, he had a fantastic night against Baltimore. The next night, I don't know what it is with those two teams, but Baltimore always struggles with them in Harrisburg. They may not have the worst. They may not have the hardest time with other places, so you can't necessarily blame the big field. But I don't know. Maybe it's the bumpy field. Maybe they just, because I was watching that ball bounce around all the time in both games. It's definitely not. It's not turf. It's basically grass.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's a rougher field. It seems like that's just from observation on the broadcast. Which we need to go down there again.
Yeah, it was a good trip.
Yeah, it was.
There were some Utica fans there in the crowd. I saw them. You could see them very easy to spot in the blue, sitting in the seats.
I will say there was one other thing to talk about real quick.
Yeah.
We at least got to see Wilkin in goal for a little while.
Briefly, briefly.
Yeah, for like a minute, literally. I mean, he got scored on, but it was nice to see him in goal. I miss seeing Brickwall Brian. But hey, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If Coughlin is in goal all the time and that's the way they want to do it, so be it. Not going to question it.
Yeah, gotten us to 500 again. So
I am going to question it because I already have this season, but
yeah,
I'm not going to complain since yes, we are back to 500, which is
all right, let's get a play that changed the game. And for me, it comes down to the Steven Basso goal in the third quarter that literally came 11 seconds after Segura. It ended a 4-0 run for Utica and brought Harrisburg right back into it to a 2-goal deficit.
Yes. I actually would have to agree with that because it just looked like we were running away with it.
Yeah.
We were behind 2 times in this entire game. And, after we got into the third quarter, actually technically after we got our third goal in the second quarter, we never fell behind again. But yeah, it definitely felt like we were starting to pull away from it. And then that's when they started kind of coming back on all cylinders. So yeah, I mean, I think that definitely changed the game and brought it into a much closer situation than I expected it to be. I don't really have another one. Like that's the thing. Like I was just gonna piggyback off yours a little bit because I mean, for me, my player that changed the game was just Coughlin all the way. Both nights.
Yeah.
All weekend. It was just Andrew Mr. Stretch Coughlin up in lights. Now that's not to say it was a one-man show, but outstanding performance by that man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see him get the award, like we mentioned, or the honor as Defensive Player of the Week.
Well deserved.
So Utica escaped 6-5 after a fairly boring I don't want to say boring, but uneventful fourth quarter.
It was uneventful until the very end when they had 6th attacker out. And of course, we're hoping for an open netter, which was close a couple times. And of course, they want to tie things up.
Right.
So, it definitely, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I saw there was a lot of tempers flaring in this game, not just Stefan, but also Isak, which happens a lot. Isak and Francis were going at it earlier on in the game. It literally looked like, and the Twitch chat was literally calling out saying, is the ref going to make them hug? I mean, maybe that's what needs to happen. So, and I'm going to start keeping track of a certain stat. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'm going to wait a few games and I want to count on a certain stat. So I've already recorded it for this game. I got to go back and watch the other one from Baltimore, I'm going to try not looking at you as you yawn, because it's going to make me yawn as I'm talking, and I'm going to come up there and bop you one. Yeah, that's right. I'm calling you out.
Okay, well.
But I mean, there was a lot of cool goals. I mean, you got to call out Segura's dribble ball out in front. Dribbling it across.
Kick.
Yeah, I was going to say the Yelovitz scorpion kick. I mean, fantastic. I know there was some controversy too around. Listen, I was prepared for this for once. Yeah. I actually have notes. Our follow-ups were on point in this game. I definitely felt like we didn't have nearly as many giveaways. With the exception of towards the end of the third quarter, we started kind of giving things away. We had a few off-target passes, but we were passing with a purpose. We weren't just passing it's nothing. We weren't just passing to people who were going off the turf. Mm-hmm. Just not as many giveaways, so a much cleaner game. And then one other thing. So it was two blue cards, one that didn't end up being a blue card and one that was a blue card that people were kind of back and forth on. Mm. Blue card that didn't end up happening against Williamson on Harrisburg, the one that was called off after they reviewed it. I did feel like it was a bit exaggerated from our side. I didn't feel like they actually collided as hard as they did, but it was a bit overzealous to actually, if they had ended up giving that blue card. Mm-hmm. And then I actually had to go back and watch Coughlin's blue card. I had to go back and watch the handball. Yeah. And he definitely smacks it down with his hand. I think it's a bit unintentional, but it looks.
Yeah, you go in sliding, your arm generally comes up for balance, and
yeah, because he literally was sliding off to his, with his right side down, but his left hand came up and then went down onto the ball. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty clear cut. So, I mean, anybody on the Utica side that thinks that wasn't a blue card, I'm sorry to tell you, I definitely think that was, and it was.
It was awarded taking away a goal scoring time.
Yeah, but at least we didn't get a shootout on that, so right. I'm good with that. See, I was prepared. You can't take this away from me, I swear.
Well, we are going to take it away from Harrisburg, and we're going to come back to Utica for Sunday, where Utica won 5-2 against the Blast at home in a game that, I mean, yeah, it was tied at the half, but it never felt like Baltimore was going to pull away or this game was going to get out of Utica's ability to win.
So the fact that it was tied 1-1 at the half, I feel ended up being very deceiving for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I think part of this is actually something that was mentioned by someone else on the MASL Monday broadcast. I don't know if you caught that. By none other than Gio over at Goals and Boards. Mm-hmm. Was talking about the fact that that Utica is a very young team. There's a lot of young guys on there. There's a lot of young, fast guys on there. And I think that came into play big time in this game.
Oh, absolutely.
Because our older play style from earlier in the year of we're just going to get the ball and sprint down the turf and score happened a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, the two Andrew assists were him chucking it down and us getting down there and them not being able to get there.
Yeah.
Then there was the Alex Gomez goal that I'm sure we'll get into. Just him sprinting down and beating two defenders and the keeper. Mm-hmm. I mean, beautiful. But that came into play. I honestly think Baltimore was tired. They had literally just played the night like you yawning again. Yes, I'm calling you out.
Yeah, I'm fighting it too. But
I honestly think they were just tired. I really do. I mean, they went into overtime the night before against Harrisburg just to come straight up here and play another game the next day. I think endurance really came into this game. Now, granted, we played on Friday, but we also did have some fresh legs on the turf.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Friday we were without Timmy, Logan, and Nate Bordeaux, our co-captain. And then on Sunday, Logan played, but Mijatovic was out. There was also no Timmy, although he was there as his Hootery mascot. And
fantastic.
No Nilton De Andrade on Sunday, clearly recovering from an injury on Friday night.
Getting beat up.
No Nate Bordeaux again.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel bad for Nilton, man. That guy got wrong side of 2 calls that officials missed from point blank range twice.
Yeah, he got taken down in the box at one point, and then he got taken down at the boards too. Like,
I was just going on this season. Like,
yeah, I was going on that game.
I was going with when Frank stomped on him.
Oh yeah,
and then the Ellen De Oliveira takedown that was very clearly a blue card, and we will talk about that when we get to that.
It was a very, but yeah, even just Friday night was a very rough night for him.
Yeah,
I mean, he got beat on.
But let's talk about this game Sunday. 5-2. It felt like Utica dominated this game, even though it was tied at half. And I think something that, even though it did feel like Utica dominated, again, we always say there's something that can be worked on. Our power play defense has slipped over the past few games. We went from the second best penalty kill in the East. Now we're down to the 4th.
Yeah.
It's down to a 536 percentage. And it's Lucas Roque finding Moises Gonzalez early in the set, or halfway through the second, to tie the game on a power play.
Yeah, it does feel like it is kind of slipping a little bit. It definitely does not feel as though we are as solid as we were on the penalty kill. It also feels like we're slipping a little bit on the power play.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like we're starting to go back to our old ways of passing around the arc over and over and over. That was something that I noticed in that game, is that, it just didn't feel like we were capitalizing on that stuff really as much as we had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, it is Baltimore, and Baltimore is a good team.
Right.
They definitely have, a pretty solid defense as well as an offense. But, in particular for penalty or for power plays, I mean, their defense definitely. Actually, they only had one power play or one penalty kill now that I look at it.
Yeah. The other one was the dissent for Jamie Thomas yelling at the official.
Yeah, I was thinking, for some reason I thought they had 2, but probably because they had 2 cards, just not power play. Whereas we had 2 tripping cards, blue cards. Anyway. So I do feel like our penalty kill has definitely started to slip a little bit. Even though we have a better defense than we've had basically all season. So it's just it seems to be a special teams thing.
Yeah,
so,
just kind of a little crack in that armor.
So, I mean, something that I'm hoping they're working on. But otherwise, I mean, nothing. I mean, I can't say anything bad about the team right now. Like they're on a hot streak for now.
Yeah, I mean, 4 wins in a row, fantastic.
Oh yeah.
But, like I said, there's always something that can be worked upon.
Yeah, and that's why I think
you can never get happy and settle with what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's why I think the special teams is definitely something that should be worked on.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like we are slipping on both sides of it.
Yeah.
So,
but I think it's pretty easy what the bright spot in this game is, and I'm sure you're going to say it's Andrew Coughlin. And
I know which one you're going to say.
I wouldn't argue it. Look, if you told me that the only veteran player to score a goal against Baltimore was going to be Taylor Walter Bond, and we would win by 3, I would have thought you were just pulling my leg. Like, no way. That's not happening.
And it was his first goal in Utica.
Yes, it was his first goal in Utica.
So we had a lot of first goals for Utica.
Gio Alves, first career goal.
Yep.
Keaton Woods, first career goal. Alexander Gomez, first career goal.
And
Gio
then
Alves, second career goal. He gets a brace.
And it's the same too. It's
Isak
Gio
and
from
Gio.
Isak.
Yeah.
Both times. And then of course you've got, Andrew Coughlin with 2 assists, one to Gomez and one to Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a great night for firsts. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, just great night. Back after the home opener, I caught Alex as he was leaving the Odd.
Mm-hmm.
Was just like, hey, what'd you think of the crowd? Fantastic. Can't wait till I get to hear them cheer for me. Well, I hope that the fans there at the Odd gave him everything that he was expecting and more.
He looked pretty freaking happy.
Could you read his lips on the replay? Because it was pretty obvious what he said after he scored. Let's go. Let's effing go. Let's go.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I don't know.
It was pretty clear as day.
I don't know what Santana and I forget who the other guy out there were thinking, but they just backpedaled and gave him all the space in the world.
Yeah, he had all the room to, and I don't think any of them expected it off his left foot.
No,
like they were just like, oh, he's going to get it back to his right and go for it. Nope, I think that's what caught all of them off guard. But what a left foot it was.
And then I saw some disgruntled Baltimore fans blaming Zierhofer for this. He missed that one. He should have. I'm like, did you see the way it knuckled? No. No, it was going one way and then it went another and then it straightened back out. Like, no, he wasn't going to get that.
So I actually did a little bit of digging myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how, of course, all teams are basically posting on their social media about scores over the weekend. And of course, they posted, Baltimore posted their score from this game. And there was one individual that was just all up in arms about Zierhofer, saying they need to really consider like getting rid of him or doing something with him.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, if it was Van Zella in the net, these problems wouldn't have been happening. It's like for both nights. Like, yeah, but
you guys scored 5 goals over 2 games. You're not going to win in this league doing that.
And it's not. If the defense in that situation had done what they should have done, which was collapse in on him and try and actually challenge him in that particular play, then it wouldn't have all been on Zierhofer and it wouldn't have been basically a one-on-one. Because that's really what it boiled down to. That was a one-on-one.
Oh, absolutely.
You basically might as well not even have been standing there. They did not do their job. And from a personal standpoint,
yeah,
I loved hearing the boos every time a certain person touched the ball.
Oh, you mean Nelly, you got the ball. Boo, Nelly.
Every single time. And I found out later why, but it's because, he had done some stuff that the refs hadn't seen. And
you mean when he hit Gordy with an elbow to clear him off the ball? And then as Gordy got back up, he threw another elbow at his head.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the refs are just like, I don't see this. I
see nothing.
I'm just going to start referring to him as naked mole rats. Because between the Frank stepping on Nilton, the De Oliveira takedown of Nilton, the elbowing to Gordy's upper torso and head region. The reason I say naked mole rats is because naked mole rats, they do have eyes, but they are too small to be functionally useful. They're essentially blind.
You're blind, you're deaf. We need a whole bunch of new refs.
That situation, we don't get to see it on the replay that was shown.
Yeah.
We don't know what started the scrum. in Harrisburg,
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you it had something to do with that hard foul, the clear blue card that didn't get called the blue card.
Yep.
Where Nilton got injured, and the officials missed it again from point blank range.
Yep, very likely.
And a player got injured. Like, how many times do we have to talk about this? It's embarrassing at this point. Completely and utterly embarrassing.
We shouldn't have to keep touching on it over and over and over.
I wouldn't trust these guys to ref my ASO games.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? They have a tough job. Well, maybe if they weren't all, I don't know how to say it nicely, except they failed at the outdoor game, and that's why they're indoor. Mm-hmm. They weren't good enough, and you put them in a game that is more physical and faster and expect them to be decent.
And clearly we're not really seeing that.
No.
It just, yeah, it does. I mean, no. And it's not just for those listening, it's not just stuff against Utica.
No, it's
like it is across the league that we're seeing this. However, a lot
I started on it last year with the Willie Spur thing.
Yeah.
Where Pardo took him out and broke his leg. Yeah. Now, I don't know if I follow Willie Spur on Instagram because ever since that, I just wanted to hey, let's hope this guy gets back to being able to play soccer. And over the past few months, he's been dribbling and juggling the ball. We're a year removed, and he's just doing the kind of stuff that you'd expect a high schooler screwing around to be able to do.
Yeah, he's just getting back to doing basic stuff.
Yeah. I don't. Well, why won't this league be bigger? Why aren't there more fans? Now, I'm not saying the referees favor one side or the other. I will say that later about something else. But the only thing they are consistent at is being inconsistent and incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Things were already escalating before the injury Friday. I'm really surprised things didn't escalate again on Sunday. These teams play each other 6 times a year. Things are going to get heated. And they need to keep things under control, and they have failed to do that time and time and time and time again.
I only laugh because...
Yeah, I know, heated.
Things got heated.
Yeah.
In Harrisburg.
You could say the officials Harris burned Stefan.
Oh, now you're just trying too hard.
Maybe I am. I'm just... When you love this sport the way that we do and enjoy supporting it and enjoy supporting the players, and you can't see them play because they keep getting injured, because dangerous players are going to happen no matter what.
Yep.
But the officials don't stop it from escalating to where I got away with a challenge like this 5 minutes ago. Why won't I get away with another one? Leads to injuries. It's inexcusable.
Yeah. It's let me do it again. If you don't discourage the behavior, it's literally
just give them the folding chair already.
Okay. I want to see that now. I mean, it's literally kind of like, and this is a crude example, but it's like training a dog. Mm-hmm. If you don't punish it, if you don't punish bad behavior, they're going to keep doing it until you intervene. That's what refs kind of are there for, is to discourage bad behavior. That's why we have cards. Otherwise, it's going to turn into NFL blitz out there, and people are going to be breaking each other's arms, doing some really bad stuff to each other. And it's just going to become, Mad Max.
Yeah. I'm tired of doing this every couple weeks.
Yep.
Because someone gets injured or someone ends up, not being able, I don't want to just say injured, it directly affects the game. That fourth quarter, neither team was aggressive. because it got to the point where it boiled over. And I think players on both sides knew one little thing would set it off again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was a powder keg at that point.
Yeah.
And that's why it just, the fourth quarter, they were not, the refs were, they were cracking down. They were pulling cards
left and right
pretty quickly if needed. They only pulled one, but it felt like they did not hesitate at all pulling that card for boarding, because they knew if they didn't, things were going to get nasty.
And you start to recognize the officials because they're always the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the senior official, Bailey, that missed the call on Friday night. I don't think we've talked about him yet this year, but Foster has been involved in a few games that have gotten a little too violent.
Mm-hmm.
As an assistant referee. Like, I see number 42 and I just go, oh God, this is going to be a bloodbath. And the fact that fans in the stands can just look at that and go, well, I know this is going to get bad before the game even starts, should tell you everything you need to know about the fact that, I don't know. Do they hold these guys accountable? Because it doesn't seem like it. They continue to be back out there. Wilson last year should have never been allowed back in the league, and yet here he is this year.
We had the Hoffman situation for the Wave.
Yeah.
As well. That's another one that, he did get slapped down pretty heavily for that, which that felt, at the time, I'm actually going to say that felt a bit heavy-handed, but looking at everything else.
Where he got,
and I don't mean him.
Yeah.
I just mean it looked like it was heavy-handed at the time, where he spit on somebody from KC, I believe it was. I believe that's what it was. I don't remember. I'd have to look back. But either way, at the time, the punishment that he got felt very holy cow, they're trying to make an example out of this guy. But I feel like that's almost needed this season at this point. Somebody's going to end up taking the fall for it. And I'm just hoping it's not us.
So, yeah, you remember correctly. That was against Kansas City last year on February 20th.
My brain works.
He spit in the direction of another player with malice intent. Yep. They gave him a 5-game suspension, undisclosed fine, and put on probation until he completed a certified anger management course. Now, there were, like you said, this one felt excessive. There were a lot of fans that said that.
Yeah.
I thought it was in line because of his history of issues.
Yeah. And yeah, if you look at the history, then sure.
But that was a DRC thing, and we do actually have to talk about the DRC, or the Discipline Review Committee, or as I said, the Dumb Recommendations Committee.
I was just giving you a nice segue. Okay?
It was fantastic.
It was pretty. It was chef's kiss.
I know. I'm white and nerdy. They see me roll on my segue.
Just get to the point.
But after Friday night, Mijatovic was slapped with an additional 2 games of suspension. So bringing 3 total, meaning he will not be able to play this weekend in Mexico. Let me pull up the actual wording here so I get it right. An additional game suspension, and reaches a penalty point accumulation suspension with the red card for his involvement, which should have brought him to 6 points, but they determined that the player displayed violent conduct and unsportsmanlike behavior. He gets the automatic 1-game suspension and will serve the additional 2 games. I guess they did. I don't know how they get 8 out of 6 unless they slap an extra 2 points on him, basically double red carding him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I fully expected 2 games, 1 for the incident on the field and 1 for walking through the bench.
Yeah, the
third one feels like a crackdown.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say the reason that they get to have a crackdown is because they have been overly lenient already this season. We watched Leo try to kick a guy in the face and he got a 1-game suspension. Should have been at least 3. Because you can watch where his eyes go in that video and watch him aim at the player's face.
Yeah.
Frank stepping on Frank coming down on Nilton. I don't believe there was malice intent there. The ball was still at his feet. That's not how you get a loose ball. Nobody stomps on a loose ball.
Oh, you definitely know
that should have been a 2-game.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to make it clear that these won't be a 1-game suspension. Well, you know, I was feeling a little banged up anyway. I get an extra week to rest.
Yeah.
2 games. Now you're starting to hurt the team a little bit. You go down to Mesquite, where a week and a half ago they got into a scrum with the Sockers, and the star forward for the Sockers, Tavoy Morgan, punches a Mesquite player in the head, and then I believe it was also him or another player kick him while he's on the ground, and they give him a 3-game. They also suspended that employee for 2 games.
Yes, they did.
So the guy that tries to break up the fight gets a 2-game suspension. The guy that sucker punches him in the side of the head gets a 3-game suspension. Get out of here. That's a 5-game suspension. You need to stop treating these players. I don't know if it was just a crackdown because they've seen enough of it over the past 2 weeks, and they're like, well, I guess we finally got to do something to send a message. Or if they were coddling them because they're star players and we need as much money as we can, and that means fans got to go to the stadium, and they're not going to go if they don't have the star players playing. And they were just babying it for that reason. But either way, the DRC is very rapidly losing any credibility with me.
I mean,
like the officials, consistently inconsistent.
Obviously, that's all. Obviously, you know, the whole thing's going to be speculation. I mean, I could see, you know, I could definitely see your perspective on that. I'm not going to take a side on this one, personally, because I do feel like I personally feel like they should have been harder on both the San Diego as well as us.
See, if
depending on who, but only if they could determine who started it.
If they had been consistently harsh, like I said on Twitter, 3 games is fair if they had set that standard already, but they hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's my issue with it. Is you've treated these other it was Cardenas that kicked the guy while he was on the ground, not Tavoy Morgan. Let me clarify that. I went and looked up the actual thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. A sucker punch to the head still feels like more than 3 games.
It does. It definitely does. I mean, that's blatant violent conduct. The fact that, again, I went back and I watched the fight in Harrisburg over and over and over, and I could not determine who started it, nor could I determine any point where Mijatovic threw a fist, because he didn't. No fists were thrown. There was accidental contact or accidental injury. High Hall's dread. Vosvik getting dragged to the ground, or getting dragged. He didn't get dragged to the ground. He got dragged kind of out of the scuffle. But there's no intent behind either one of those things. Nothing. Not that I could see. Now, I mean, being in the scuffle, probably would be a bit different.
Well, we wouldn't know because the officials stood off to the side and just watched, which is apparently what they're supposed to do. But like, I think to all the baseball scrums that I've watched in my life, or the football ones, or the NBA, and the officials all get involved to break it up before someone gets hurt. But we don't care about player safety in this league, not as much as we should at least, so we'll just stand off to the side.
Yeah, the only ones that were actually breaking up the fight from a official standpoint, we'll say, was the coaches.
Yeah.
That's it. It was Everton and Healy, which again, I initially thought Healy was involved. But again, I went back and I looked, and I don't think it was directed at Healy. I just think he was in line of sight, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look, as you said, fights are entertaining. Sometimes, I mean, even in hockey, I mean, they're used as we'll call it motivational tool for the crowd to really get into it. And, that's why, I mean, I'm sure that's why teams have designated fighters, because it's like, hey, we can probably lose this person for a game or two just to get the crowd hyped up for this game to try and push us through.
Yeah, that was a dirty hit. Go get even.
Yeah. But, MASL doesn't have and shouldn't have that.
No.
And so, again, if there was intent, that would have been one thing. But it didn't, to me, seem like there was intent behind any of that. And that's why a fully fledged sucker punch and a tiff where, admittedly funny, Mijatovic walking through their bench. He shouldn't have done it, but I don't know. Unless I don't know. I
absolutely the wrong move. It clearly was going to get him a bigger suspension.
And
at the same time, I loved it because it said, "This is my house. This isn't Harrisburg's house. This is Utica."
Mm. What would have made it really bad is if we lost that game.
Yeah.
After that. Which I honestly was a little bit worried that was going to kind of empower them to want to just beat the ball down our throats, which I'm sure they did. But the problem is we had Mr. Stretch that just stopped so many things. But yeah, I can definitely understand and share at least some of the frustration with the referees, with the officials. Either be consistent every single game, call things as they should, which they're still going to miss things. There's no question of that. Things will get missed. But they
should be like, oh, I missed a handball.
Yes.
Okay, no, he tripped him up and didn't get the ball. Not, he kicked his feet out from under him and put his hands on his chest and threw him to the ground.
Yeah.
Not, I used an elbow to clear out space around me when only one player was there and the ball's nowhere around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those
now,
things.
Hold on, let me just step on the ball that's under your legs. Because that one also had to go to review to get.
Yes, it
corrected.
did.
It's just not acceptable in a professional sport. And the critics will say, well, if you think you can do it better, go get trained and do it yourself. And to that I say, I'm aware of how little the MAS still pays their officials. That's why we get the bottom of the barrel. And I refuse to work for less than what I'm worth.
And also, you don't want to see my fat butt run up and down the turf, because I ain't going to make it long.
That's all right. We have a few guys like that now.
We do have some less than in shape gents out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, but the thing is at least one of them who is a, older, rounder gentleman. Name escapes me at the moment. Don't seem to have any problem with.
You're thinking Ron Corey.
Yeah, he seemed to call the games pretty well. Yeah. Like I haven't had any problems with any call he makes. It's like that I've seen. It's like, yeah, no, we deserve that, or yeah, that was deserved on either side. Like, at least from the games I've watched recently, I'm sure you could find some archived footage or, games from earlier in the season that maybe I just don't remember right this second. But from what I've seen recently, like, there are some good refs out there that actually care. But then there's other ones that are just feel like they're going through emotions.
Yeah. But, and then there's me who just is like, that guy's from Baltimore. He should not be officiating Utica at Baltimore. That feels like there's a bias.
I know that they're supposed to let go of any biases, but
yeah, no, you don't want me calling a Yankees game.
Yeah, exactly.
The same, like, yeah, I'm going to be as fair as I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can't just bury your internal biases like that. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it works for announcers sometimes. I mean,
Times.
You look at Big Z. I mean, you couldn't even tell that guy is, a Utica fan and calls for Utica, and
sure you can, because he tells you all the time.
but I mean, he definitely hides that bias very well.
Mm-hmm.
And our friends over in Ontario, but for the Empire Strikers,
mm-hmm.
I mean, Philly and the Doctor, like, I bring them up all the time. They are one of the best they are the best announced team in the MASL.
Shots fired, because that just means you forgot Nick Vassos and Eric Bergrud.
Nope.
No.
I didn't. I didn't. They are amazing. Do not get me wrong. They are they are in my top 3. It is basically Empire. I probably would have to go Big Z and then KC if I had to go announce teams.
Are we going to do announcer power rankings? Because I can't rank most of them.
I just gave my top. If I had to pick a top 3, that's it.
Yeah, I think broadcast that I enjoy, it's those 3.
Yeah. So
Milwaukee's good.
And they are also some of the least biased ones out there.
I like the other guy in Harrisburg who was unfortunately doing the Sirius XM call on Friday night, because he sounds like I can't think of the actor's name, but he plays Champ Kind and Anchorman, and I keep wanting him to just say whammy every time there's a goal.
Yeah, I mean,
talk about how bats are chicken of the cave.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely. They just didn't like an honor thing for him too on Friday. I thought it was
Saturday night. He was inducted into the Heat Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I can't think of his name.
Oh my gosh, it's horrible. I cannot believe that I can't remember.
All right, we should get back on track, though.
We probably should, but it's more fun to not.
Just consider that our mid-quarter scrum there. And our fight was with the officials.
Yeah.
And the DRC. And just, let's bring it on MASL in general.
Bring it on. Taking on the world.
All right, let's go look at the standings quick. Because we mentioned Utica's back to 500.
Yeah.
We're still holding on to that 5th spot in the East. We are now 6 points clear of St. Louis with an extra game to play. And we are 4 points behind Kansas City and Baltimore with a game to play for advantage for us as well. So all those teams played 17, we played 16.
Yeah, I noticed that we were actually like a game behind.
You know what sucks about the points? Because I do like the fact that you get a point if you lose in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Utica hasn't lost in overtime, so that actually hurts us.
Yeah.
We're only the 3rd team in the East with a 500 or better record.
Mm-hmm.
But because we haven't lost in overtime, KC and Baltimore, who are both technically 8 and 9, are ahead of us in the standings.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that something like that actually hurts us. It was John Wilsbach.
Okay.
Wilsbach. Sorry, I had to look it up. I was curious.
That's fine. Thank you for Googling that.
It's on their Facebook. You stop that.
I'm sorry.
Now.
I had both roofs slide off today, so there was a lot of ice to be dug out of the driveway.
I want to hear it. I want to hear your excuses.
Snowblowers don't do so well against giant chunks of ice.
I don't know what you're talking about. Mine did fine.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Lucky you with your ice thrower.
Yeah. Anyway, bring us back.
We're going to come back, and let's talk about the standings and how we're close, and we got 8 games to play. 2 of those games are going to come this weekend down in Mexico. Friday night, we played Chihuahua at 9 o'clock. Chihuahua at the moment is
scary.
In second in the West. They're 12-4-1. They have a plus 38 goal differential. They play on a small field like Baltimore in a small arena that really packs the noise in from what I've heard.
Yep.
And they can certainly score. They got 4 guys with 20 or more points on the season already, and a 5th at 19. The goalkeeper, Valdivinos, is 11-2 with an overtime loss and 4.61 goals allowed against. So it's going to be a tough nut to crack to find the back of the net.
Yeah, we knew going down into Harrisburg going down into Chihuahua was going to be tough because every team has a difficulty down there. So I'm not I'll be honest. I don't expect us to come out of there with our win streak intact. I really don't. Would I love it? Absolutely. Do I think the boys are up to it? I think it would. I think it would. If they left everything on the table, I think we could come out with a win. But then you don't have anything left for the second game of the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, once again, we are going to be without Tim Goldman this weekend. Logan Roberts is doubtful, and Correa and Bordeaux are both questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And no Stefan because of suspension.
Right.
So our defense is thinned right down again. Probably talking Ricky and Toby.
Yeah, it's definitely thinned down. And then, I mean,
maybe Logan if he can go. Yeah.
I'd love to see what the rookies can do. Basically, that's what this weekend would be is what can the rookies do?
Like on paper, this is a game that Chihuahua should win with ease. They're scoring a goal more per game on average. Their power play is better. Their penalty kill is better. They're at home. They're on a small field where Utica has not played well the past couple seasons.
No, they have not.
This is one where I think we're just happy if we look competitive.
That's all I really want to see out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see us play 4 quarters and, 4 full quarters. We've talked about that in the past. Like,
yeah,
making sure that we see these guys actually play a full 4. And if we can get that and we look decent, even if we're getting scored on every 30 seconds, so be it. That would be good enough for me. I was trying to.
Yeah, it's it's one thing to lose on the road against a competitive team, and another thing to lose in Harrisburg.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's that's really what it is. So yeah, hopefully they come out competitive. I don't know. I think Chihuahua beats us by 2.
oh, you are not getting any. I'm not doing any sort of score.
I mean, it could be a lot worse, but like, I don't know. We'll see.
Do you remember the last time we went there?
No, that was Sonora.
I'm sorry, that was Sonora. Yes, I was also thinking of. I was actually also thinking of Empire when we went there.
And we also know how badly, what the difference was between game 1 and game 2 down there. Just don't stay away from the cervezas and tequila. You may sample the local cuisine and beverages, but indulging can be detrimental.
Do it after. Do it after.
Victor, because you got a day off before you travel over to Monterrey to play the Flash. The Flash are a bit of an intriguing team. They're also at 5th in the West. They're also 8-8 at 8-6-2. But it doesn't make sense. Oh, they must have more overtime wins. That's how. Okay, I was doing math in my head. It doesn't. Okay, yeah, they have 3 overtime wins. They're plus 11 goal differential. They just went into Mesquite and dominated last night, 13-2.
Yes, they did.
However, that snapped what was a 2, 3, 4, 5 game losing streak. So I don't know what we're going to get out of them. I'm pretty sure I might be paraphrasing this, but right before they came out and dominated on MASL Monday, you mentioned Gio in his power rankings. He said, at the moment, no one's afraid of the Flash.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Are we set to be afraid of them? Because Mesquite's been a pretty good team this year. I know Utica beat them, but it took overtime, and it was at home.
I don't know.
And Mesquite was also missing some guys due to.
I don't know. I'm up in the air on Monterrey. I mean, they are definitely a tough team. Not as threatening, or not. I shouldn't say threatening. Not as intimidating as Chihuahua, but they are a very tough team to deal with. And I think it might be closer. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't know if we walk out with a win. I don't think we're going to stay 50 or 500 for very long.
I don't know.
Although, I mean,
I know we haven't been good on the road. We're 2-5.
Yeah.
But there are only 3 teams. Sorry, there are only 2 teams in the MASL with sub 500 home records. And that's Dallas at 0-6-2 and Monterrey at 3-2-2. Every other team has a winning record at home. Or at least a 500 in like Harrisburg.
Why you got to pick on Dallas? What did Dallas
I'm just pointing it out. They have failed to be competitive and have everyone talking about how good the West is when they can all go just beat up on Dallas. Like, at least Harrisburg beats Baltimore.
So that was actually something that came up, is the fact that our top team in the East has the same amount of points as the number 4 team in the West.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Dallas has basically no points. They have 2 points because they went to overtime twice. And that's it. So they have a much more concentrated spread of points, while ours is more spread out. There's a lot in the middle and less at the outliers. Whereas, San Diego has a sizable lead and Dallas is very far down there's a 17-point gap between them and Tacoma, the next step up.
Yeah.
And then, but you look at the East and you see Milwaukee at 30, but then you look, Florida's 1 point behind, Baltimore's 4 points, and Kansas City are 4 points behind. Worse, 8 points behind Milwaukee. Like, it is a much closer race in the East than it is in the West. So, but I will say that every time we watch a team in the West, it's scary to watch. It just feels like, the teams in the West are very good. And so it's intimidating to watch any team in the West. Sorry, I got off track.
No, you're fine. Yeah. But we look at Monterrey and, our best scorer is at 29, Gordy Gerson. Their best is at 21. But after that, Nate, 19, Eric Tovar, 20, Christian Skura, 17, Daniel Villela, 18, Bo, 15, Flores, 13, Andrade, 15, Castillo, 12.
Mm-hmm.
The difference, I think, is going to be Reynoso in goal if Coughlin plays like he has this past weekend.
Yep. Because
Reynoso's got a 4.26 goal allow against and a 7.27 save percentage. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, but that's not the end all be all. It is a huge advantage in this league if you have a keeper playing at an elite level.
Agreed.
But do you even go look at the team stats? Utica goals for 5.8. Monterrey 5.7. The goal differential at the moment favors Monterrey. That's because Utica's lost a couple blowouts, and Monterrey just blew Mesquite out of the water.
Yeah,
13-2. Like, there's their plus 11 goal differential right there.
So, here's what I'm going to say about the Monterrey game.
Mm-hmm.
If Andrew is on his game, like he was this past weekend, lays off the sauce, like they all should, and they come in firing on all cylinders, it's going to be close. That one I will give a score on, or at least a plus or minus.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say it's going to be by one way or the other. It's going to be close. Because I also looked back at the Mesquite game. Now, granted, Monterrey just blew out Mesquite, but we beat Mesquite by 1. That was a very close game,
right?
And they're ahead of them in the standings now. That doesn't mean much, if they haven't played them, as much, then that's not a good determining factor. But we're actually looking here real quick. Yeah, they've played them. Scores. Oh, let's see. They have played Monterrey twice. 3 times, excuse me. And they have won 1 time. They won against Mesquite, beat Monterrey for, looks like, their first game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Monterrey by 1 in end of January, and then the blowout. So the blowout to me is an outlier.
Yeah.
Because 2 games they won or lost by 1. Because they had the one that was literally, they won 2-1, and everyone was like, wow, is this an outdoor game? So if we come in on point, I think we have a shot. And if we don't, then I think we lose by just 1. Mm-hmm. I think it comes down to a single goal for either side. As long as, again, our guys are on point and Coughlin comes in like he was this past weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a big thing in this could be penalties. The power plays and penalty kill. we mentioned Utica's power play penalty kill's been slipping, but Monterrey's only converting at, the stat that we were calling alarming a little while ago for Utica.
Yeah.
Like a month ago at the same pace, a 2.96 conversion rate. They're 8 of 27. On defense, they've only allowed 30 shots. Or what? Shorthanded. They've been shorthanded 30 times, and they've only allowed 8 goals. Utica's been shorthanded 27 times. We've allowed 12. But we've also converted 12 of 27 power plays.
Yeah.
But
we also did talk about one of the things that we need to work on is our special teams.
Yes.
So, hopefully that's happened.
This could be a get it right game for the penalty kill side.
It very well could be. Yep.
I think a big key is going to be who actually plays. If Logan can go for the second one, if Nate can go, that gives a huge boost. Nothing against the rookies, but
yep.
And I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the capacity is at Arena Monterey, but they're averaging 2,000 fans at home, so it's not going to be as loud as it is in Utica. Kind of think more Harrisburg a few years back on the other arena.
Mm-hmm.
This is one where I see Utica having a really good chance, to right the ship on the road and come away with 2 or 3 points. I don't know if it'll happen. I'd love to say Utica goes 1-1 on the weekend. But if they look competitive in both games, I'll take it.
Yeah. I would, at the very minimum, like to see them competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Coming out of this weekend, even with a single point, would be awesome. But just be competitive out there. Don't collapse under the pressure. Just try your darndest out there. That's all we can ask.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get some points out of this trip. The boys have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody comes back healthy for the next time we get to see them at home on the 12th. I don't think we have anything else. You got anything you want to chat about?
I think we've droned on long enough.
All right. Well, if that's the case, you know where to find us on social media at Keepers Corner Pod. Got that TeePublic store, don't forget about. And as always, thank you for listening. I'm Matt.
I'm Brandon.
Have a good one. Go Utica.
Let's go, boys.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Keepers Corner podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to us so you never miss an episode. If that podcast app also has reviews, be sure to leave us 5 stars to let us know how we're doing and reach a larger audience. It really helps us out. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Keeper Corners Pod. And you can always find us there talking UCFC soccer. Thanks again for the support. It's truly appreciated. One last thing. Go Utica.